when I'm doing my research on which communities and to join, notice I didn't even say projects, that's communities. That just came out of my mouth. It is the community. Like for me, I think, okay, the thing I'm investing in right now, if it doesn't work out financially long term, like let's say tomorrow, like Cool Cats, for example, it just doesn't go any further. I actually end up losing money maybe long term because you just never know. Would I still be okay in investing in it right now because of the people I get to meet and connect with and the fun I get to have?
This is Brand Story, a podcast celebrating the stories of real people who are making an impact on brands, business, and the world around them. Welcome to Brand Story. My name is Steve Gilman, and our guest today is Zain Gaziani. Zain is our first return guest on the program, and today we're going to talk all things NFTs. And Zain worked with Team Gary Vee for a good couple years, and he worked really closely on the launch of the VeeFriends NFT project, and was the moderator for the Discord community, and that was one of the most notable NFT launches, and now he's in the NFT space himself. So hi, Zain.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. How you doing?
Doing well. I had no idea I'm the first return guest.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible.
You're the first person we've brought back just because, I had such a great time talking to you the first time. That's one of the most fun conversations I've ever had. It was just a blast.
Yeah, it was a good time. I mean, and last we talked, it's been a minute. I was on Team Gary at the time. VeeFriends, I think, was just starting. So it's cool to have gone through that and now come back with some data points.
Yeah, and I think it's so cool. I was talking to one of our producers here, Riley, who's a big fan of yours now. And we were just talking about okay, Zane's got to be our touchstone. We'll just keep checking in with him once a year or once every, you know what I mean? We'll just follow him through his entire life. That's now our goal, by the way. That's what the podcast is about.
I love it. That sounds like a great plan to me. I'm super in.
Cool. So you've been up to a lot, man, since the last time we talked. You were involved really closely in the launch of Gary Vee's VeeFriends, and you were the moderator of that NFT community. So, I've kind of been following along with you and trying to learn about NFTs. And I think I'm maybe your perfect audience in that you end up talking to a lot of people in your world that know a lot about NFTs and what's going on. And I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle. I know just enough to be dangerous, but there's just a ton of misinformation and misunderstanding in the general business world, in people in general. I think it's still the dawn of a new day, and there's so many misconceptions. So when I thought, hey, I'd love to talk about this, I instantly thought of you. So what have you been up to lately? What have you been doing?
Yeah, man. It's where do I even start?
Yeah.
I was working at VeeFriends, right? So I was working on Team Gary. So that's the team that produces all of Gary's personal content, so videos, audio, images, everything you see. Primarily, I was focused on community as well as producing the actual content for his Instagram, LinkedIn, and other platforms. So earlier this year, like you mentioned, I got a chance to be the head of community and content for VeeFriends, Gary's NFT project. And that really became the catalyst for me to get into crypto, NFTs, and this whole space, right? I was forced to roll up my sleeves and really learn it because no matter what, whether I liked it or not, I had to learn it for my job. And so anyways, started learning it, fell in love with it. It's all I could think about. And then obviously when VeeFriends launched, that became a whole different thing. I got 100 times more excited. As you mentioned, I was responsible for the Discord. And in the first week, from the moment we launched it, we had 130,000 members in week one.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I thought we'd get maybe 40 or 50,000, which was still a lot, but we got 130. So I had to learn how to not just run a Discord server, but run a super popping Discord server with security, engagement, all of it. So learned a lot. And the long story short, as time went on and as I spent more time in VeeFriends and the NFT community, I said to myself, VeeFriends is awesome. I obviously love it. I love the people and Gary and the team. But what if there was a role out there where instead of focusing on one project, what if I got to touch 1,000 projects?
Yeah, right.
And and so I was thinking about that. Long story short, I reached out to my friend Tiffany, who is the CEO of a company called Islands. At the time, Islands was secretly building in stealth mode. They actually just announced this week on the actual platform and what it is. But anyways, long story short, I reached out. They were working on some cool stuff. And so I left. I made the tough decision to kind of leave the VeeFriends Vayner ecosystem and try something new as a startup. And so, anyways, I left that, which was a tough decision. Joined Islands. I think I was employee number maybe 8 or 9, so very early.
Startup world's a crazy world too.
Super startup world, yeah. Especially not only startup world in the NFT world, which is also just like getting started, right? So it's completely uncharted territory. So, anyways, I joined. The people are amazing. I still talk with them. They're incredible. But from the moment I joined, I was like, oh, I don't think this role is the right fit for me. And yeah, it was my fault. Maybe I didn't ask enough interview questions. I tried to make things work, but I'm telling you, I think like within the first month, I was like, I just know this is not a long-term thing for me, which is okay. It
Yeah,
happens. So,
sometimes that happens.
yeah, and so we tried to make it work. It just wasn't for me, and ended up leaving after 2 months, which isn't that very long of a time. And when I left Islands and it was time to figure out what's next, typically I would try to find my next full-time role somewhere. And so that was what I thought I was gonna do, and I don't know what happened, dude. I don't know. I still don't know where this urge came from, but I think because I just turned 30 and because I was just trying to figure things out, I was like, my whole life I've always wanted to draw and create and tell stories through my artwork.
Yeah, one of your first drawings you did was like, that feedback you get from teachers and
Mm,
people early in your life where they're like, "Oh, you're not an artist."
yeah.
You put that silliness away and study something else. So that was one of your first NFTs that I saw. But go ahead, keep going. You're going to get to what you're doing now.
Yeah, so no, that was it, man. I said to myself, like, I look back and my whole life I wanted to be into the arts and drawing and be a creator. But to your point, my whole life, my teachers were like, it's just a phase. Most people don't know this. I actually joined my college's animation program and was like, and I had to quit 2 years in because I couldn't pass like certain classes. And I was like, this is it. Like, I had enough savings where I'm like, okay, if you don't make any money for like 4 or 5 months, you're going to be okay. And I said, let's just do it. This is the best time. You understand NFTs a little bit. Let's go for it. And I out of nowhere, I made a doodle. This was a Sunday night, random Sunday night. I made a doodle and randomly I minted it. It was my first time minting an NFT, so I was very excited on OpenSea. And I just shared a little tweet with a link. I said, hey, I just minted my first doodle. Like, I'm excited. And dude, it got sniped. Someone bought it in less than a minute. And I couldn't believe it because not only did someone buy it, they in a minute did they make a buying decision. They also paid for the gas fees, and now they have this in their collection. And I just couldn't believe it. Like the money's nice, but I couldn't believe someone bought my thing that I worked on.
Yeah, must be an amazing feeling.
Dude, it was the best feeling. And I think altogether I made, US dollars wise, I might have made maybe like $200, which is still, I mean, for drawing, that's amazing. But it wasn't even that. It was just like, oh my God, I made this and that happened.
It was just like the instant validation of it. And now you have like on OpenSea. So we're gonna have to pause and do some definitions for this audience and just for everyone in general, because the time I've spent following you, and it's kind of funny. I feel like I'm it's so great to have you back because I follow you a lot and I feel like I'm on your coattails learning. So I followed you through the VFriends experience, got really interested in NFTs, got into the Discord there. I noticed you just opened your own Discord. I joined right away. Like so I'm learning and going along with the stuff with you. And so you now have an NFT space on OpenSea that's called Good Morning Doodles. And
Mm-hmm.
it's got a ton of drawings and it's kind of blowing up a little bit. You've been doing a lot of really cool things. So I really want to talk about that. But before we get into that, I think a lot of people, they hear the word NFT, everyone's saying it, but have you been asked to explain like fungibility, like non-fungible and fungible tokens? Like, is that a thing you speak to?
Kind of. I mean, the way I describe it to anyone, because I like to think everyone's in NFTs because I went
Yeah,
to
right.
NFT NYC and everyone's into it. But
Yeah.
then take a step back and talk to my friends who aren't into it, and there's just way more people that don't know what I'm doing or they think I'm a little crazy. So yeah, the best way I think about it that's helped me help other people in my life understand it,
Yeah.
including my parents, is I say I think NFT I don't know why it just sounds really complicated. Like what's fungible, then what's the non version of that? For me, and I don't know if it's the best way to explain it, but for me, it's NFTs are a process to authenticate slash prove ownership of a digital asset, right? And an NFT can be anything. Now, a lot of people think it's just images because people are seeing these profile picture projects get really popular, like the apes, bored apes. But it can really be anything. I mean, an NFT can be an image, it can be a video, It can be an audio file, right? Songs and music.
Yeah, it can be a ticket to an event. It can be a million things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could literally be anything. And what happens is through this authentication process, which is the way I think of it, it's all on the blockchain, right? And what's cool is now everything that is an NFT that's recorded on the blockchain, it's trackable, and you can now see the history of how this digital asset has gone from crypto wallet to wallet. You can see how much someone paid for it, and at the time, how much the USD value was, and also how much someone paid for gas. Like everything is transparent now, and that's what I love the most. Is I can literally click something and know its story by its transaction history. I know who owned it, what wallet, and what's cool is just, I mean, you could get lost, dude. Like if I, my so I have a cool cat. That's like
Yeah,
the name of
I
a
was going to bring
project.
that up. Yeah.
I have my little thing here.
Yep.
So I bought it, and what's cool is, and I didn't know this, but I was interested in my cool cat. I just like the look of it. It's the one I had wanted. Someone had put it up for sale, and as I was buying it, I was going through the transaction history. One, I could see how exactly like where it started from the moment the project launched. But two, and I didn't know this, one of my good like real life friends actually owned the
Oh
piece.
my
He was the
God.
one selling it.
That's so
So I
cool.
was like, wait a second. So it's just cool, man. I
Yeah.
think so. Long story short, I know I'm going on kind of a tangent, but it's in the way I see it, it's just a way to authenticate who owns something on the blockchain.
Yeah. And I think that's a great way to explain it. I think of it as like fungible assets, or like a bag of rice is fungible. Every bag of rice is just a bag of rice. But like a drawing, there's one original drawing, and that's non-fungible. Like the Mona Lisa is non-fungible. Your first drawing you did is non-fungible, but the blockchain allows us to see, like, I can click on any of your drawings on OpenSea, and I can see the exact history of the day it was sold, who owns it, whether they're selling it or not, or I can make an offer. And so, it's mind blowing when you start thinking about the possibilities of all this. Like it has far reaching implications. So what do you think? I want to talk about, why don't we talk about your project first, and then I'm going to talk a little bit generally about misconceptions of the space and stuff you run into. So tell me about what you're doing right now with the Good Morning Doodles. What's going on with you?
Yeah, so it's really cool, man. So like I mentioned, I sold that first drawing. I couldn't believe it. It was the best feeling ever. Just the fact that someone went out of the way to buy something of mine is incredible. And so, and because I thought I was crazy. I'm like, I'm leaving. I'm not gonna find a full time job. I'm gonna doodle. I'm 30 and I've never sold anything in my life, much less my artwork. Like this makes no sense.
You're good at taking leaps, though.
I know. I don't know what, I don't know if I got dropped on my head as a kid. Like I don't know what it is, but anyways, long story short, the first thing sold, and I said, you know what? Let's try this thing out. Let's lean into it. So the next week, I believe I produced 3 doodles. These are all one of one pieces. That means there's only one edition. There's not multiples. And same thing, I priced it at 0.06 ETH. So at the time, that's usually about like 200, maybe $220 a piece, which is a lot of money. And dude, I mean, again, I just told the night before I dropped them on a Friday, so on a Thursday night, I went on Twitter. I made a thread about the pieces I'm dropping, why they matter, like the story behind them. And the same thing. I mean, the next Friday, I dropped them at the same time, and they all sold within a minute. And then it just kept happening over time. Like every week, they would just sell as I would tell the stories of these pieces and why they matter to me and how I thought about creating them. And it's just this collection, the Good Morning Doodles, has unexpectedly just become a collection where I'm able to draw things that are on my mind, whether it's a cartoon of my 8th grade teacher telling me, hey, this is a phase, or whether it's just me and my dog at the dog park every day and drawing that moment. It's just kind of become a place where I'm just creating my story and telling my origin story. So that's the Good Morning Doodles thing, where it's weekly, I'm dropping these pieces. But then two, on the side, I'm working on another project right now that's more a very different project. It's me storytelling. Did I tell you last time I was here about Chippy, the red little character? I don't know if I told you this.
No, you didn't. We started talking about it, and then we went in a different direction. So yeah, tell me about that.
Okay. Yes. Long story short, 2 years ago, I made up this character name. His name's Chippy. He's this red little mischievous devil little character. And I wrote a story about him, but I just never knew what to do about it. So I kind of sat on it. And now, learning all the things I'm learning, I'm like, wait a second, this is the perfect vehicle to tell Chippy's story in a meaningful way. So now I'm creating a project all around Chippy that hopefully is going to drop in March or April of this upcoming year, and that's going to be a very different type of project. So I'm just creating, I'm telling stories, I'm making, and I'm having a blast.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. I look forward to seeing that drop, and I'm following, all of your drops, and what I noticed about what you're doing And I know it's confusing for people listening. The whole world of NFTs is so big, and we'll list some resources where you can go learn. And we're gonna ask Zane a lot more questions to help people understand what we're talking about. But you are storytelling. Like your Good Morning Doodles has a feeling and a mood, and it's about you growing up, and it's about how I think we all relate to it because every drawing has a story, and you have a story, and you're very good at telling a story. So I think people are connecting with it because we've all been kept down by either teachers or adults when we were kids saying we couldn't do something. I think that's something everyone's felt. And I think you're just tapping into things that people connect with. So there's almost a community aspect that goes along with NFTs. A lot of people think, well, what's the value of a drawing? It's just a drawing. But you're also kind of buying into being part of something, aren't you?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I know this is gonna like if you're just learning about NFTs, what I'm gonna say next is insane. But my cool cat that I have one cool cat. I
Yeah.
got it a little later than a lot of people, but I have my one cool cat, dude. I'm telling you, like I could sell it today on the collection, like the floor, meaning the lowest price in the cool cats collection right now. I think it's like 8 ETH. That's like $32,000. I could sell my image of my cat for $32,000 right now today on a Friday. It would be bought probably in an hour or two just because that would be the floor if I go that low. Dude, I haven't even thought about it. Like I just like I feel so connected to the community.
Yeah.
It's a community of artists and builders and pioneers and creators, and we're all just like hanging out. And there's only 10,000 total. And now the price is so high that if I sell it, I probably can't get back in. So I don't know, man. There's been a couple of projects that I've bought into and I've sold to make a flip. And I'm telling you, I know it sounds insane, but even though I made like a 4x flip, I'm just like, dang it, I sold
I wish I'd kept it.
it.
Yeah.
I know it's this weird. You're leaving the community.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things. Like even when I was first getting into this, what happens is you see the big splashes, and people see like Bored Apes, and they don't understand what it is, and they look at the price point, and they're like, "This is nonsense. Why would anyone pay that much money for that?" Like they don't get it. And at first too, I was like, I don't get the valuations, and I still think some of them are probably high because the art part of NFTs is really blown up. Tons of people are getting into the space to just flip them. But there's a lot of these that are going to last and persevere and turn into entertainment platforms. All sorts of different things are going to come out of it. So, with the Bored Apes, they're partnering with Adidas now, and they've got a partnership with Rolling Stone magazine. So really it's IP, it's intellectual property, and they're going to build an entire ecosystem around it. So, some of these projects, that's where they're going. Other projects, it's one of one art collectibles. And if you connect with it personally, you're also connecting with a community of people that connect with it personally. And that's amazing. That doesn't happen when you go to a store and buy a painting.
Oh yeah, and what's cool is, to your point, like the community is dictating the market value, right? Like, because at the end of the day, for example, like, so there, Cool Cats I think is a great project, but I mean, even I'll give you a newer one. There's one called Crypto Moris. These are like these 10,000, pictures of these skeletons. It's about memento mori, so it's like a reminder that life is short. And there's like different traits. They're really cute, and it's just a very positive community. I actually got in very early, and I bought 5 of them. I sold 2 for a good profit, keeping 3 right now. And dude, it's just the community is just different. I mean, it's all focused on mental health. It's very positive. The Discord is just always popping. It's really nice. There's just good vibes only. But yeah, man, I think the community is something that when you're on the outside, because when I first heard about all this before VFriend started, and it's changed so much since then. But back then I was like, no, like what community? Like you're buying images and you're like, what? This makes no sense. But when you finally get one, and especially if there's a good community in it, then you really understand. You're like, oh, I don't like now. This is so much bigger than just a picture. And then not to mention, obviously, this is a whole different conversation. But there's so much then you can do with the NFT technology. One thing I've been really into in the last, I'd say month, 2 months is blockchain gaming. Buying plots of like actual like virtual land, which is limited, and now these teams are building these gaming projects, and as they're adding more utility and stuff to it, the value of my land is also happens to be going up. But more importantly, I'm just having a great time being a part of the project and seeing this game evolve. So it's just so much, man. I mean, this is something we could talk literally all day about.
Oh yeah, I know. And it's going to be, I think this episode, I hope gets people curious and will give them some resources to go and try and learn. And I hope people go and look at your project, or I think there'll be people that listen to this that don't know what OpenSea is. All of this is very
Yeah,
new. I mean, even when you were skeptical, we're talking about less than a year ago, when you
yeah.
were, before you were like getting into this. So this, I've had a lot of people that I've talked to being like, well, it seems like, it's happened really fast and it's just too late to even get into the space because the prices are so high. And it's like, yeah, it's a little bit of the Wild West, but this is the beginning. This is the very start of this space.
It's the start. And, like, you also have to understand, I mean, the projects that we've even talked about so far that are kind of like the blue chip, right? The bigger projects, Bored Apes, Cool Cats. Bro, I mean, that's all less than a year old. Bored Apes came out, I think, in May or June at their latest. And then Cool Cats came out in June or July. It was in the summer.
Isn't that crazy?
So the projects yeah. So I mean, think about it. That's insane. I think the other thing is like, yes, like you have these successful projects. There's also going to be many of them that aren't going to make it long term. And so it is kind of a risk in that situation. That's why I think it's important to consider like the money you're putting into it. Don't like I think some people are going into it, that friends I've talked to that are not in the space but are interested in the space, they're going into it 100% being like, okay, how do I take my $4,000 and make it 12,000 soon? And I'm like, if you get in the right project, I think that is a possibility. I've seen that happen. It's happened to people. It happened to me. But you have to understand that that's not very likely, because there's a lot more projects that are going to have a slow growth or no growth for a long time, more than the ones that are going to pop right away. There's not that many Cool Cats or Bored Apes. That's why we talk about them.
Yeah. And that's kind of like a whole thing with investing and people wanting to make a quick dollar. So you're going to hear about the successes, and if there's 10 successes, those are the ones you're going to hear about, but you're not going to hear about the 10,000 people who lost money. It's just like the stock market.
100%. And let me tell you, there's I'm not gonna take names, but there's a guy who I really like in the NFT space. He has a lot of like blue chip, right? Like beautiful, like these NFTs that are worth a lot of money, and he got in kind of early. I was talking to him the other day, and we were on a call, and I was talking about his amazing, like, how do you get in so early? Like, you have so many beautiful NFTs. He's like, dude, and he went on a screen share and he showed me his OpenSea, like, which is, for those who don't know, which is the platform, or which is one of the platforms, probably the most popular one where people are buying NFTs. He showed me his OpenSea profile, and on his OpenSea, as you probably know, Steve, you can hide certain tokens from the public. He had like five like really amazing things that were on his profile. He had like 200 NFTs hidden because they're failing and like they're horrible and they're bad investments. So on the public, on my end, I look at his profile. I'm like, oh my god, you got all these. You're a genius. You know all this. Let me teach me. But he's more just like investing in a ton of things. Most of them aren't working out, but the ones that are working out are making up financially for the ones that didn't. So there's I guess the lesson is two things. One, there's way more than meets the eye. Like, it's just like social media, right? Like, just because you look at someone's profile and they're out at the beach, they've got their abs out, they're having a great time with their spouse, but behind the scenes, the worst, their life sucks. That could be a thing. So keep that in mind too. You can easily hide stuff from the public. And then two, the reason when I'm doing my research on which communities and to join, notice I didn't even say projects, that's community. That's
No, you
communities.
said
That just came out of
communities.
my mouth.
Yep.
It is the community. Like, for me, I think, okay, the thing I'm investing in right now, if it doesn't work out financially long term, like, let's say let's say tomorrow, like Cool Cats, for example, it just doesn't go any further. I actually end up losing money maybe long term, because you just never know. Would I still be okay in investing in it right now because of the people I get to meet and connect with and the fun I get to have? If that's not the case, I usually don't invest. I made a few that maybe I entered for the wrong reason, but most of them I look for the community aspect. And that has to click for me personally, because at least then I wouldn't feel bad if it crashed, because at least I'll get to make cool friends and have some good memories in it.
That's a great point, because I think there's a lot, it's so complex, but there's, things you need to look at if you're going to buy an NFT. Where is there a community, because it has more likely to go up in value if there's a community. Who are the people behind it? Look at who's actually doing it, and because that's important. And then, does it have some sort of utility? Because a lot of them do. And there's a lot of things you can look at to get to where the value is. And then sometimes it has to be that you connect with it personally. And it's not just, it's
Yeah.
like anything. If you're getting in to just make a quick profit, you might get lucky and make a quick profit. But just because you hear that a lot doesn't mean it's happening to everyone. I think that's an important takeaway. So we're kind of talking about like misconceptions in the NFT space. Are there any others that you run into all the time? Now that you're like really in it, like what are a couple of highlights?
I mean, the biggest one that I get is money laundering. You might have heard that,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like people
yeah.
are like, oh, it's just like if you go on Instagram, right? Go to any NFT type of page, and someone like reports a sale. I mean, half the comments are like money laundering again, money laundering. I'll be honest, dude. Like maybe there is some going on, and I'm just not cool enough to be looped in. But I'll tell you, if you think about what it means to be in the blockchain, as we mentioned earlier, right? It's all trackable, it's all transparent, and it's like it makes zero sense because if I was someone that wanted to like sneak around and like launder money, I feel like this would be the worst place to do it because everything's
You
trackable.
mean a permanent ledger isn't a good place to be shady?
Dude, think about it. It makes zero sense to me. And again, I'm not super smart techie guy. Like I'm sure there's ways to go about stuff, but if I think about it, like everything is so trackable. Right now, you could literally see my first wallet. Through that, you could find my other wallets because I probably transfer some funds. Then you can see what I bought when I bought it. There's Etherscan, which is a platform where you could go any and type in anyone's wallet address and then see every transaction on there ever. It's all out there in the open. So that's I just don't understand that logic. I think people say money laundering, at least from what I've seen, like friends of mine that are on the outside, they say it just because like either as a joke or also just more like as a response of something they don't understand. Which makes sense because if you're on the outside, you see a picture of a Bored Ape sell for 150K. You're like, wait a second, this has to be a thievery or something bad.
I don't think it computes very easily because it's new. It's kind of like, Gary Vee's talked about this. I've seen you write about it. Is that it's new. So it's a lot like when some of the first social media platforms came out or certain things on the internet started. When they started and they were new, there were a ton of people who are like, this isn't going to stay around.
Yeah.
The internet, that's dumb. No one's going to use that. So I kind of feel like this is a little bit of the same thing. It's easy to mock something you don't understand. And the more and more that I've learned by following you and dug into it, this is here to stay. It's just that it's a really exciting time, especially in the art part of NFTs, because that's the most visible part right now. Because
Yeah.
other things take so much more development.
Oh yeah, dude, that's such a good point. I know. I'm telling you. I think 2021 this year. I think this is like an onboarding year. People are learning about it. I like those profile picture projects, like the Cool Cats and stuff. And they're doing so much more. They're building video games and tokens and stuff. But that's what a lot of people are seeing right now. But I'm telling you, I think this year, like 2022, it's going to be a lot more. Gaming is going to be a big thing. A lot more people are going to hear about. You're already starting to hear about real like big sales happening and people going into that world. Music is a big one. People are like artists aren't just selling like pieces of drawings and stuff like I am. Like they're actually producing music and like selling that to their holders and community. Music, gaming, and then photography is getting really big. If you're watching that scene, people that are photographers that were getting paid pennies for certain like big publications working for them are now able to with their community sell their photography, and there's so many like big creators now getting paid so much more the way they should be paid for their work. So I think those three spaces in particular I'm watching, and I have a lot of friends in those spaces, and it's cool to see.
It's a system that allows the creator to actually directly benefit from the sale. It takes out a lot of middlemen. And, when you think about that impact on the art world or the business world, it's going to get a lot of attention because it allows a direct sale to, and especially if you're selling copies of something, and you've got an original photograph, but you're going to sell 5,000 copies of it and people want it, then you're not taking a percentage. Not someone else isn't selling it for you. You're selling it directly to the people who will have it. So it's a really interesting world.
Well, I mean, and just because there might be some newer people to space listening, I mean that's exactly right, right? You can sell that. You're in more control. There's like no middle people really necessarily. I mean, I guess like, this is like small, right? But like depending on the platform, for example, you sell on OpenSea, they take a small, like I think like maybe 2.5% or something, but compared to probably what someone else would take, that's really small. But also, what's cool, like as a creator, as myself, you also get to really own the royalties forever. Me so for example with my Good Morning Doodles, right? I have it set for my collection that obviously when I sell it for the first time, I get that money, but also as my own brand grows and the people one day might flip my own pieces that they bought from me, I will get 10% of every sale forever for the doodle that flips. So if someone goes around and flips one of my doodles they bought for $1,000, I'm going to get $100 directly. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to ask. It just, because the way I've set it up, it comes directly to me. And that's so cool.
Yeah, that's amazing for creators. So, you know, I know a lot of artists, visual artists, photographers. I'm a photographer myself. And, do you have any advice for other artists out there that are thinking they're looking at the NFT space and they're just overwhelmed? What would you tell them?
Yeah, I mean that's a thing I hear about a lot right now. Like at this point, it's like who do I trust with the information? And like there's too much information sometimes. You don't know where to start. I mean, I think I think the biggest thing that I've told people that because it's hard for me to relate in many ways because I literally they're like Zane, how do you know this? I'm like, well, I literally spend 18 hours a day on Twitter and Discord, and this is all I do. So, but I understand that's not feasible for everyone. I think I think I would say is look at other people that are doing it. So let's say you're a photographer and you're interested in even understanding how to go about it. I'm telling you, like, look at the people that are doing it well. What's cool is not only are you then checking out their work, but like turn on notifications for them on Twitter. And then every time they join a Twitter spaces with other photographer NFT artists, well, now you're going to learn from them as well. So I'm telling you, I think there's just so many really awesome conversations happening in Twitter spaces, right? Like just voice conversation, like voice, what's it called, programming. I also spend a lot of time in Discord, but I think the first thing I would do is just look at other people that are doing it, see what they're posting, turn on notifications for them if you want. So that way when they join thing like programming and events on Twitter Spaces, you can listen to them talk and if you're really feeling courageous, like jump on the stage and ask them questions. One thing I've really been impressed by is just how nice this space is because there's so many creators now, whether you're like me that you just never for whatever reason had a chance to do it, or you're someone that has been doing it for years, but you are what they call the starving artist, right? You love what you're doing, but man, you're not getting paid, you're not getting the credit, and finally there's a vehicle for you to do it. And I think because the space is full of people like that appreciate what the technologies allowed them to do and change their lives, they want to help other people achieve the same. This is the first time I feel like, in Web 2, at the end of the day, even though there were a lot of like collaborating people, like right back in the day, it still was kind of like people were like, well, I don't want to give away all my secrets, or, oh, that's my competition. Dude, I'm telling you, if you spend time in the Web3 world, if anyone's listening, it's incredible how many like just collabs are happening and how many people are just supporting one another. There's when I randomly took a trip to NFT NYC, which is this event that happened at NYC a couple of weeks ago where the NFT community came together. Dude, it was cool, man. I mean, there were people just like helping each other out. There's a gentleman who's like really well known. He's a photographer, NFT he's been featured on a lot of big things. So he's many levels above a lot of people. And I just ran into him and we had this great 30-minute conversation. He answered a ton of my questions and everyone's just so down to earth. So if you're new, don't be afraid of the people because I think the people are incredibly nice.
Yeah, I think what I've seen is the space is really encouraging, and the Discord spaces are really everybody's really friendly and trying to help each other and introducing themselves. It's a really different feeling than a lot of social media. It doesn't really have that feeling. It does feel like community. So, can you touch on Discord just for a second? Because I know you learned it like by trial by fire back in the spring. Like it was like, hi, you're going to be an expert in Discord now, you know? And I've started to get into Discord. For some people, it's like falling off a log now. It's like totally normal. I go on Discord all the time. For a lot of people, I've said Discord and just had them go blank. Like, what the hell is that? Can you talk about it a little bit since you've learned so much?
Yeah, I mean, of course. It's a platform that to be honest, I wasn't even super into it until earlier this year. I mean, NFTs and crypto is what got me into it. But I used to hear about it back in the day. A lot of my friends that were into gaming used to use Discord servers to like communicate, play online together, that whole thing. And that wasn't really as much of my thing. So earlier this year, I noticed there were a lot of servers, right? So communities, if you will, being created for different NFT projects. And so that's really what it is. And I'll say this: I feel like when you join Discord, it's not like the easiest onboarding.
No, it's not. It's confusing.
It's confusing, and and there's these thing called bots, and there's things called commands and roles, and you're like, what is this thing? I thought why isn't this like Twitter where it's easy to understand? So when I was learning, I'm telling you, and I think this can help, like just go on YouTube, spend like 2 hours watching some really basic videos. Just type in like how to use Discord. You're gonna find some great resources. Just start there. Because I think by the time you, regardless of who you watch, they're probably going to teach you enough to where you can at least then feel comfortable opening Discord, clicking on a server, and then seeing the channels. You're like, wait, I know what a channel is now. Okay, great. And so I would do that. But dude, I'm telling you, once you spend enough time in Discords, like that's where I made seriously my best friendships this year. Were just through being on a Discord at 3 a.m. On some project that we both just, me and this other stranger just really like, and now we are talking all the time. But yeah, I learned trial by fire with VFriends. I didn't expect 130,000 people in 7 days. I probably should have. So I got to learn about it through that, and now I've created my own community just 2 days ago called the Art Barn. And because I noticed there was, as a creator myself, as someone that's producing art, I felt like there's a big Twitter community for it, like people on Twitter Spaces and that are talking, engaging. But I was like, there wasn't a hub for me outside of that to like connect with other artists. And I said, well, if it doesn't exist, I'll create it myself. So I call it the Art Barn. It's just a place where people who are all sorts of artists, whether you're traditional, digital, whatever, for you to come and just meet other people and get ideas, feedback, and just we'll build stuff together. And it's been cool, man. I mean, in the last 2 days, again, we just launched, actually just yesterday, so it's been 24 hours. We have about 250 members. We have people from all over the place. I mean, we have one guy who makes wooden tables. We have one guy that makes custom video game controllers. We have NFT artists, and we're all just in there hanging out. I do a thing called a scribble game where where I draw a scribble and people make stuff from it. So people are like drawing with that. It's just fun. And so we're going to build a lot of stuff together. My goal is for it just be a place where we can all celebrate each other. We can help each other grow. And then if someone, has an NFT project and they want to hire artists, like this is a place where they can go in and find that talent and we can all like celebrate each other. So I'm really excited for it.
That's really exciting. I joined on your first day. I'm in your Discord as well. I haven't done much yet, but I'm in there because from everything that I read about what it was going to be about and from what I saw, that's something you want to be part of. So if there are any artists listening, we'll put some links and we'll put links on your landing page to your Discord. And if people want to try to get involved, it is a really, genuinely generous community, especially with Zain involved in it. So what's next for you? What's good? What you've got so much going on, and this has all happened really fast. Your 2021 has been just a ride.
Thanks, man. It's yeah. I mean, I never thought in January this year I'd be making drawings and selling them and running this Discord community. It's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. What's next? That's a great question. I mean, right now, I want to really, there's a couple of things. One, the Art Barn Discord community. I really want to grow that brand. I think it's going to be very community led. I envision a world where there's people in the community that are, there's going to be some people running the podcast. There's going to be some people helping me build tools and resources so people that are new can come in and know where to go and learn. So I think we're just going to really focus on building a really valuable community there. Other than that, I do want to continue creating these doodles every week. And then on top of that, I think that's eventually going to pretty soon become one of my top priorities is that Chippy project I mentioned coming in March or April. That's going to be a ton of fun. It's going to be very different than anything I've gotten to do before, but it's going to be so fun to like finally get to tell this story of this little character I made 2 years ago. It's just gonna be a blast, man. So that's kind of the focus is. I am also on the side. So just to kind of break it down, I'm doing everything I just mentioned is like 70% of my bandwidth right now, and then the other 30% of my time, I'm still doing social media management for a client.
Oh, good for you! Wow.
Yeah. So that's like, so some people think I'm full time, and I kind of am, but I still spend at least 30% of my time working with clients and stuff, just because it is a skill set I have. And especially, in the Web3 world, people are looking for folks with that experience. So that's something I'm still doing like 30% of my time part-time.
That's great. It's good to have that income stream. And then it's also just good to, it keeps you connected and, you can always move around and do new things as your projects expand. So yeah, I'm really a big fan of Zain Industries, like all the things you've got going on, and I'll be following you really closely. I think what we're going to do is just keep having you back and touching in with you
every 6 months.
Yeah, man, and just see what's happening because you're moving really fast. So I feel like if we didn't do it fairly frequently, we wouldn't know what the heck was going on with you.
It's funny because I actually I know you're joking, but funny enough, I actually really do like this because it is, to your point, there's just so much happening. Even this year, it's so much has happened. I don't take a lot of time because I'm always like go go go. I don't take a lot of time to like step back and talk about things and look at everything. So these kind of conversations are so important, not just for anyone listening and for you, hopefully, but also for myself to just like reflect and be like, wow, like this is what's happening right now. You're actually doing this. This is insane.
Yeah, I think it's really good to pause. And, the whole reason I started this and the reason it's called Brand Story is, I'm getting a chance for a moment to help tell your brand story, and it's really about you. And I'm a fan. So I would love to have you back I'll have you back every 6 months for the rest of time if you'll come
Let's do
back.
it.
Yeah, just because I think it's a wonderful, I really appreciate what you're doing. I love your energy. Like talking to you always gets me really excited. And, I learn from you all the time. I follow you on all these different platforms and see what you're doing. And, for people who don't follow Zain, there are people you follow who talk at you. I think if you just watch what Zane's doing and you watch how he behaves with other people and you just listen in, you learn a ton. And you are really one of the most kind, encouraging guys I've ever been around.
That's very nice, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So your brand is doing great. Just keep going, man. you know?
My brand is doing stuff and then being like, what am I doing?
Yeah, exactly. Your brand is like you're experimenting, you're trying new things, but you are you and you're doing a lot of really cool stuff. So what do you think has had the most impact on you in this journey with NFTs? Like what were you given any particular piece of advice or was it any, I know you just like one day started doodling and you did it, but is there anything that really occurs to you of like your aha moment or something that really had an impact?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you this. So I've been selling these one of one weekly doodles for 0.06 ETH, which is just like the number that I'm selling it for. But when I was first about to sell my first doodle, which seriously looking back, I mean, you would have thought I was like planning to like propose to someone. Like it was like I was like freaking out. I was like, no one's gonna buy this. Everyone like, what's gonna happen? And I remember at the time, I was like, okay, pricing. How do I price this thing? It's my first one, so if I price it too low or too high, it might actually make a difference for the rest of the collection. So I remember I was like, okay, I'm gonna do 0.01, which is like $50. And I was like, that's huge. No one's gonna buy it for 0.01. Are you kidding me? And I reached out to my friend Sarah to help me get set up with something. And I reached out to Sarah. I'm like, Sarah, so here's what's happening. I'm gonna price them at 0.01. It's gonna be a weekly thing. And she's like, that's too low. Like for you should like value your stuff more. You should do at least like minimum 0.04 ETH. And I was like, great, that's what I'll do. That seems really, really high, but I'm gonna do it. And as I was pricing my stuff, I put 0.04. And I was like, you know what? Let's just do 0.06. Let's like really amp it up. And if no one buys it, I could lower it. And I did 0.06 and that it sold right away. And I think like looking back at that over dramatic thing that I was going through, I was like, looking back, it's like, oh, like never, like Gary talks about, it's like never say no for the other person. I knew I wanted to sell at 0.06. I really seriously thought no one was going to do it. But for some reason, I leaned into it and it worked out. And that's the same price I've kept since. So I think if you're an artist, we tend to undervalue our work. I had a call with an artist yesterday who has like over 20 million followers across platforms. It's a big deal. And even he was like, oh, but who's going to buy my stuff? Like it's something we all go through. But if you're listening, if you're selling your work, price it with what you want to, and don't say no for the other person. That's something I learned pretty early on in this process.
Yeah, and that's great advice. Don't undervalue what you're putting out there into the world, because it's going to be meaningful to somebody and it's going to add value to their life. It's going to either bring them some sort of energy they haven't had or it's going to mean something to them. If someone connects with something and it brings them comfort or energy or pleasure or they're collecting, then yeah, it is worth it to them. So yeah, don't price yourself out. Don't undervalue for other people for sure. That's great advice. With NFTs, it being such a huge world and there's no way we can cover it all while we're talking here today, is there any resources, any like must reads or anything like that? You said something, by the way, in your last interview with us that several of the guys around the office, we still say it to each other. And, you talked about how everything you want to know is either on Google, Reddit, or YouTube,
Yeah.
And so we say that all the time because in an industry that moves fast, we have to try to learn things all the time. So Google, Reddit, and YouTube have an amazing amount of information. But is there any particular source you'd recommend?
Man, that's a good question. If I was starting today, there's I'm trying to think if there's a Discord or any community that's like really doing it. I mean, there's a lot of like different social media pages and communities. A couple that come to mind. There's 137 PM. So that's like a
Yep.
company within Vayner. 137 PM. They write a lot of like basic beginner articles around NFTs and crypto. So definitely check that out, especially if you like learning from reading. They do an excellent job there. Also, if you search Gary Vaynerchuk and then just type in like NFTs or getting started with NFTs, we wrote a ton of articles earlier this year breaking down like as a person who doesn't understand at all how to actually understand NFTs, how to get set up with a crypto wallet, how to buy your first NFT. That's really cool. And then there's another company called Metaverse, METAVERSE. They have a Discord. They also have an Instagram page. I actually know the gentleman who runs it, so I think they're legit. And they do a lot of news updates on their Instagram on like what's happening in the industry, and they also have just a ton of resources as well. So I would at least start there. I think those could be a good starting point.
That's great. Yeah, well, we'll list those resources on your page and get them out to people. And I've been on the 137 PM. I like that a lot. And then, I got interested in this because I was following Gary Vee and you. Like I got into NFTs the same time, you all were working up to the launch of VFriends. I talked to you right as you had gone through that whole, the Discord thing. And honestly, it's fascinated me so much. I've been going through and learning everything I can, and I'm really into it. I'm enjoying the hell out of it. It's really
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, it's a
That
blast.
makes me so
man.
happy.
Yeah, so thank you for the inspiration. I appreciate it.
Always.
Let me ask you a question. I asked you a question. This can be like our final question today. So I had asked you last time you were here, and I'll ask you each time. But I asked you a question about what advice you'd give your younger self, and you had an amazing answer. But to ask you that again, I'd frame it this way: what advice would you give yourself if you just went back 6 months? Because I think you just did in the last 6 months enough that it could be your younger self.
I'm laughing because I don't remember my last response. You're gonna have to don't tell me yet. I'm curious though what it is. But I think if I had to go back 6 months, what advice? So 6 months, yeah. So I'd say that. I mean, I can't remember what I said last time, but I bet you it's something similar. I would say that I'd say lean into what you want to do, and always, again, like we talked about. I think we spent a long time on the last podcast. Like really think about the worst case scenario and the best case scenario. That's what I always do. And I think if the best case scenario is life changing, that's the best, you kind of owe it to yourself to do it. And so I would just remind myself that go for it. Go, as insane as it sounds. If you want to start doodling for the first time at 30 years old and start selling things, like it's okay to do that. Like go for it, because if it fails, if it doesn't work out, you can always go get the full-time job in a few months and be okay. It's gonna pick right back up. So yeah, I'd reinforce the message of just like going for it.
That's great. I think that's a really great message to live by, and I think I certainly you've been living by it, and it's been working out well for you. And I'm really happy for you with how things are going, man. I really am. And one of the things you had talked about is just, and I see you do this all the time. You're a natural connector. You connect with people, and you're always building community. So I think you'll always be successful because of how friendly and generous you are with your time and your attention, and you're really generous with people. I see it online all the time.
I appreciate that, man.
Thank you for being out there spreading the love, man. It's really a cool thing for you to do.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's cool, man. And I think it's the space. I think, I mean, obviously it's like, obviously I'm doing certain things, but I do think the healthy nature of the NFT crypto space is a big part of it too. Like it's just in Web 2, there was this weird like competition, and this person's going to take away from me in some ways. But and I never felt that, but I knew other people were like, if I were to create a art barn community back then, I think there would have been a lot more like, what are you doing? But like with NFTs and stuff, with what's happening right now, with everyone partnering and helping each other out, collabs happening all the time, and understanding no one's success is taking away from you, it's cool, man. I'm more inspired to create places for people to learn and grow. So I think the NFT space is a big factor in that as well.
Yeah, that's a really cool way to look at it. I wonder if that has something to do with how the blockchain works and the fact that ownership is so clear and everything. There's a permanent record of what you own and what you do, and what someone else does. I think it creates this atmosphere where it's okay to collaborate, and it's okay to, what I mean? It creates this like safety net in a weird way.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. And I think again, just the opportunities and the lives that have changed just this year, I mean, mine included, but so many other people, There are people that have wanted to, they've been wishing for something like this for the last 2-3 decades, and now they finally have it. And so now they appreciate it, and they just want to give to people because they got it. So why not help other people get it too?
Yeah, it's a really generous space. So I wish you all the success with the morning doodles and with the art barn on Discord, and we'll put links. So if anyone listening is as curious as I am about NFTs and the NFT world, following Zain on Twitter, following Zain on Instagram, getting on Discord and trying to find his art barn server, all the things you can do. You'll learn a lot from just watching Zain out there in the world. So thanks a lot for being here today, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, thanks for having me. This is fun. I'm excited for the next 6-month check-in.
Yeah, well, let's definitely do it, because that would probably be my favorite ongoing series. Like, and then we could have them all. Like, I really just want to check in with you every 6 months and just see what's up. I think it would be a blast, and I love talking to you, man. I could do this all day.
Me too, man. This is fun. I really mean it. Let's definitely do more, and I'm excited to kind of follow you guys too and see all the cool stuff you guys continue to do.
Want to hear more inspiring stories? Subscribe on your preferred podcast app so you don't miss an episode. And if you like what we're doing, please rate, review, and share. It's the best way to support us. Thank you for listening to Brand Story.